Tonight, the major legal blow to President Trump, a federal judge throwing out criminal charges against two of his most prominent critics. The cases against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James dismissed. The judge ruling President Trump's hand-picked prosecutor was illegally appointed. What we're hearing from the targets of both probes and why it's not exactly case closed. Also tonight, Senator Mark Kelly, at the center of a Pentagon investigation, threatened with a court-martial over his video message to the troops. How the former naval officer is responding to the accusations tonight. Tornadoes slamming Texas just as Thanksgiving travel gets underway. A funnel cloud carving across a highway near Houston. A building torn apart, trapping people inside. Plus, our Tom Costello at the busiest runway in America. Are they prepared for the holiday rush? Scary highway moments, a dump truck smashing through road signs, cars forced to dodge debris. Plus, our reporter put down a deposit for a Trump mobile phone, but after months of delays, it's nowhere to be found. So what's the hang-up? Right place, right time. A driver having a heart attack, losing control, and crashing into a building. Tonight, we speak with the doctor who rushed in to help, while he says his GPS may have saved that man's life. And the new study on taking a digital detox. What a week without social media can do for your brain. Top story starts right now. And good evening. Tonight, a major setback for President Trump and his efforts to prosecute his perceived political enemies. Two criminal cases, one against former FBI Director James Comey, the other against New York Attorney General Letitia James, dismissed. And here's why. The judge determined that Lindsay Halligan, the interim U.S. attorney who brought both indictments, was not lawfully appointed. Halligan was handpicked by President Trump in September after other prosecutors refused to recommend charges, arguing there wasn't enough to convict Comey and James. But what it all came down to was an argument over 120 days. According to a federal statute, U.S. attorneys can only serve in an interim capacity for 120 days after being appointed by a U.S. attorney general, unless confirmed before then. Comey's lawyer argued that clock started with Halligan's predecessor, who started in January, and the judge agreed. Tonight, we're hearing from both Letitia James and James Comey, FBI director, posting on social media that he's ready for whatever comes next.
I know Trump will me again, and my attitude will be the same. I'm innocent, afraid.
But the judge leaving the door open, dismissing both cases without prejudice, meaning the charges could be filed again. And the White House is vowing to appeal. Our Laura Jarrett starts us off this evening.
Tonight, the prosecutions of two longtime Trump targets upended. A federal judge tossing out the criminal charges against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, finding Lindsay Halligan, who President Trump handpicked to lead the U.S. Attorney's Office in Virginia, was wrongly appointed due to law limiting how long prosecutors may serve without Senate confirmation. The Attorney General saying tonight the department will appeal.
We'll be taking all available legal action, including an immediate appeal, to hold Letitia James and James Comey accountable for their unlawful conduct.
The prior U.S. attorney forced out by President Trump this fall after expressing doubts about the viability of indicting Comey and James. The president nevertheless directing his attorney general to charge them.
They should be judged, and we have to do it now.
Just 2 days later, Halligan, the president's one-time defense attorney, tapped to serve as interim U.S. attorney, notably taking the cases against Comey and James to the grand jury by herself, despite having never served as a prosecutor before, both pleading not guilty. Comey charged with lying to Congress and obstruction just days before the statute of limitations was set to expire, speaking out today.
The message has to be sent that the President of the United States cannot use the Department of Justice to target his political enemies.
James facing charges of misleading her bank to receive a better mortgage rate, saying today, "I am heartened by today's victory. I remain fearless in the face of these baseless charges."
Okay, Laura Jarrett joins us now in studio. So, Laura, let's go back to the beginning of this, right? Because that's where it's important. This whole thing started at the beginning. How did they not know there was going to be this issue with her appointment?
There was always a knowledge that this was going to be an issue. The statute isn't new. This has been all in the books for a while. The issue is that Comey was the first one to tee it up because he's the first one that gets charged. Remember, she'd never been before a grand jury before. It's the first case, so that's why he raised it almost immediately after he got charged. There was no one to do it before, Tom, even if they knew this was going to be an issue.
And then at the top of the broadcast, we brought up this issue. I mean, could the White House appeal this?
They can easily appeal it. Obviously, the Attorney General says that they will. But what happens if they lose is where things could get really interesting, because the judge said this is without prejudice, which means they could refile this. But the question then becomes, okay, who's going to refile it? They had enough trouble trying to get a prosecutor to do it. That's why they had Lindsay Halligan do it. And now the president doesn't even get to pick who the acting U.S. attorney is. A federal court decides.
Okay, well, we'll wait and see.
Yes.
Laura, so great to see you. Also breaking tonight, Senator Mark Kelly, now at the center of a new Pentagon investigation in connection with that video where he and other lawmakers urged the military that they can, quote, refuse illegal orders. NBC's Garrett Haake has this one.
Tonight, the Pentagon opening a misconduct investigation into Arizona Democratic Senator Mark Kelly for his role in this video posted online last week.
We want to speak directly to members of the military.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth calling the video, quote, despicable, reckless, and false, after Kelly and 5 other Democratic lawmakers who all served in the military or intelligence urged service members not to follow unlawful orders, infuriating President Trump.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
The Defense Department now saying its probe could lead to the retired Navy captain and astronaut Kelly being recalled to active duty for a court-martial. The Pentagon has not outlined possible charges. Kelly responding, quote, I've given too much to this country to be silenced by bullies who care more about their own power than protecting the Constitution. Last week, President Trump posted that the video was, quote, seditious behavior, punishable by death.
Those are serious words. Coming from the President of the United States, he's trying to intimidate us.
I think what Senator Mark Kelly was actually trying to do was intimidate the 1.3 million active duty service members who are currently serving in our United States Armed Forces.
I'll be resigning from office.
It all comes as the president also faces criticism from a former top ally, Georgia Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene, who announced Friday night she would resign her House seat in January amid an Epstein files feud with the president, suggesting that he and his party have lost their way.
Once I left her, she resigned because she would never have survived a primary.
All right, Garrett joins us from the White House. Garrett, a couple questions tonight. First up, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is not leaving quietly, right?
Not at all, Tom. I mean, this is someone who made their name on Twitter. Today, she responded to a reporter's post on X, suggesting that there could be other resignations to follow, that members of Congress on the Republican side are miserable. She said she thinks they've wasted their majority and they could lose it next year in the midterms.
Yeah, she's a representative, right? But she has a lot of name recognition, especially in Georgia. Is there a political future for her out there, whether it be governor, senator, something else?
It's going to depend on what she wants to do. She said earlier this year, before this dust-up with Donald Trump, that she didn't want to run for governor. Perhaps she revisits that decision. She said recently she's not running for president. Based on what she said today, I think you can take jumping into the Senate primary that's happening now in Georgia off the table. But she does have a huge voice and a huge following. So if she wants to stick around and find some kind of political future, Tom, I think there's opportunity there.
All right, Garrett Haake following it all from the White House. Garrett, we thank you for that. I want to bring in our political pros to break it all down for us. These major headlines out of Washington today. Democratic strategist and host of the Caucus Room podcast, Don Calloway, and former senior advisor for President Trump, Mercedes Schlapp. Mercedes, I'm going to start with you. I want to pick up right there where Garrett left off. Marjorie Taylor Greene was a MAGA disciple, right? She's been a key Trump ally. Does her leaving signal sort of a larger rift within the Republican Party?
You know, I don't believe so. I do think, obviously, it caught a lot of MAGA supporters. And there was a surprise factor here because you did think that Marjorie Taylor Greene and President Trump had a good relationship. Obviously, that seemed to have they ended up in some big disagreement, which led to her resignation. But I do believe that the MAGA loyalists will stay with President Trump and continue to follow his vision and how he's implementing his agenda. Let's remember, these congressmen, you know, they come and go. And at the end of the day, the focus is going to have to be about unifying the party as they're going into this midterm elections, because the margins, especially in the House, are so narrow.
You have this Republican majority, Don, in Congress, and you have, like we said, one of the best-known Republicans in her party, most well-known, name recognition, wanting to leave. Do you think there's divides there in the Republican Party?
I really don't know, and I have made it my business to stay out of the business of the Republican House Caucus for the last 15 years because it's a different kind of place. I put Marjorie Taylor Greene in the context of some of her House Republican colleagues, I would say, who have emerged over the last 7 years. Madison Cawthorn, gone. Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning in January. Nancy Mace is leaving to run for governor. Lauren Boebert has been uncharacteristically quiet. I think, and I hope, maybe I'm wishfully thinking, but I do hope that this is a sign of, regardless of who retains the majority next year, both parties moving towards reasonable adults in the room, and we're really moving away from some of those folks like George Santos, as well as another one, who became famous and kind of infamous during this kind of second part of the Freedom Caucus era. Of course, we'll always have those deep right conservative members led by the Freedom Caucus, but there was a generation of kind of folks who weren't deeply serious congresspeople, and I'm glad to see them moving on. To me, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a part of that trend, and I'm happy to see it.
Don, let's go back to the charges that were dismissed at the top of the broadcast here against James Comey and Letitia James. How big of a blow is this for the Justice Department?
It's as big of a blow as they want to make it. It was clearly a procedural appointment, so it was not to the merits of the case against Comey or Attorney General James. So it could easily be brought back with a properly appointed United States attorney who's confirmed by the Senate. The question is whether the Trump administration will be focused on this in the 60 to 90 days it takes to get a prosecutor who can bring back the charges. Pam Bondi said they would be, but there's no telling what the president's whims of any given day in the first quarter of 2026 will be. I don't see it as fatal to the cases, but it's about whether or not President Trump wants to go there or just move on to whatever else is happening.
Mercedes, is the honeymoon period for the second Trump administration, is it now over? And I say that because we have this issue with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We had the election a couple weeks ago that didn't break Republicans' way. Obviously some tough races there, but people are reading the tea leaves saying this doesn't look good going into the midterms. Inflation is still very stubborn. Russia, Ukraine, it's unclear what's going to happen there. What do you think?
Now, look, I got to tell you, well, you look at Virginia and the races in New Jersey, for example, obviously those are more blue states. That was going to be hard for Republicans to win. I do think for President Trump, as they're moving towards this peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, that would be big news, okay, because that has been the toughest war to really try to get a handle on and lead peace in that direction. So I think for President Trump, he's going to hone in and his team on the affordability issue, on continuing to bring prices down, on basically dealing with the impacts of what we saw with the negative impacts under the Biden administration when inflation was up 9%. So it is truly for President Trump the focus, and I believe for Republicans will be the economy as they move forward. As we know, midterm elections is always tough for any incumbent president, and I think the Republicans are very well aware that they're going to need to have a very unifying message as they're going in next year and ensuring that it's going to have to be, as I think, the kitchen table issues, which are going to be dominant as we're going into next year. And look, Mondami, you look at those Democrats, the reason why he won up in New York City, what was he talking about? Affordability. And that, of course, for Republicans are looking at that saying, we got to make sure that we continue to push this issue and talk to the American people about the economic successes that President Trump has been able to accomplish, like lower energy prices, lower grocery prices, et cetera.
Yeah, some groceries still very expensive. Mercedes, what do you think about this issue with Senator Mark Kelly and the Pentagon going after him over that video?
Look, I'm actually really disappointed on how the Democrats have handled and basically decided to move forward with this video. There's a way for these senators and Republican and these House members to bring up this issue, to bring up or question any issues when it comes to Secretary Pete Hegseth or the military. It's called congressional hearings. And they did this as a propaganda video. So I think it really it was a backlash on these Democrats. I think there was a better way to do this. And at the end of the day, when, for example, Senator Alyssa Slotkin was asked what illegal order President Trump has pushed forward, She couldn't answer a single one. So I just think it was a very bad move by the Democrats. And I do think that if the Republican members would have done something like this when President Joe Biden would have been president, oh, my goodness, it would have been a media meltdown. So I think for the Democrats, this is not a good look for them. And quite frankly, I think that Senator Mark Kelly, as a retired officer, if he's going to be investigated, he really should have thought about this twice.
Don, what's your take on what's happening here with Senator Mark Kelly, who served and is still an active senator?
Yeah, well, the Trump administration for 10 years now has eroded norms. Well, now we're touching upon the most sacred and, frankly, constitutionalized norm, which is the First Amendment. You do not punish people for alternative views, because eventually that will get around to all of us. And a quick note, Mercedes, you know as well as I do that Senator Kelly couldn't call a congressional hearing on these matters because he's in the he's in the Senate Minority Caucus. Minority Caucus members don't have the capacity to call hearings. That's part of being in the majority. So he couldn't have said that. Perhaps he could have gone to the floor. But I think that Democrats are doing what they could do to call attention to a potential remedy, a potential resistance in this era of what is absolutely authoritarianism right now. There is no official book on how a United States senator or American leaders who believe in democracy should fight back against authoritarianism. So they got the most eyeballs they could. It was certainly a bold and aggressive move, but it is by no means anything that should result in him being called back into active duty and threatened with a court-martial. Not only does Senator Kelly know that, and Mercedes knows that, but Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth knows that this is a completely inappropriate and overly punitive speculative remedy.
That'll be the last word. Don Calloway, we thank you. Mercedes, always good to see you as well. We appreciate it. Also breaking tonight, the severe weather marching across the South. Storms unleashing tornadoes across Texas, launching trees on top of homes and cars. A roof ripped off while people were still inside. Our Priscilla Thompson in the storm zone with the latest.
Tonight, a menacing funnel cloud slicing through the Houston area.
That's crazy.
The likely tornado touched down this afternoon, causing significant damage.
Holy Houston.
Downing huge trees and ripping pieces from homes. Justin Vasquez's brand new car was smashed.
I dropped everything that I was doing, ran into the bathroom, grabbed at the toilet, closed the door, and the pressure was so bad, I thought it was going to blow out my eardrums.
Take a look at the mountains of debris lining this neighborhood.
Just got another natural disaster call, 9019 Bayou Bluff, Klein FD, for a friend's house struck by a tornado. Roof has caved in at this location. Unknown if anyone's inside the residence.
This image from the Harris County Emergency Response Center shows the likely twister sending debris flying.
I've never seen two men look more terrified.
Nearby, two maintenance workers were inside this building when it collapsed on itself.
He was just hanging on for dear life, and his partner was holding onto a metal rack. And he looked up, and the roof just sheared off.
This haunting time lapse shows the dangerous storm approaching. It also dumped torrential rain on the area. A massive cleanup looms as the week gets underway.
Yeah, Tom, it is damaged like what you're seeing behind me, these massive trees, this one coming down on someone's brand new car, and it is up and down this block and throughout this neighborhood. There are fences that are down. We are also told by county officials who did confirm this was a tornado that there are also a number of gas leaks that have now been caused by these downed trees, and that there are crews out working round the clock, even as it is nightfall here, to try to fix those leaks as folks here are continuing to clean up. Tom?
Yeah, those gas leaks can be so dangerous. Okay, Priscilla Thompson for us. Right now, that dangerous storm system on a collision course, of course, with holiday travel. Here's a look at the track. Millions from Texas to the Northeast at risk for strong to severe storms, and it couldn't come at a worse time. A record-setting number of people are expected to travel this Thanksgiving. The big question is how that weather will affect flights. Tom Costello takes us inside airport operations during the busiest time of the year.
The holiday travel week off to a rough start.
The strategy here is to get early.
With that Texas storm delaying 45% of DFW's flights, 31% at Houston Intercontinental. At New York's JFK Terminal 4, an IT outage Sunday caused hours-long delays into the night before it was fixed. While today,
Flight 909 to DFW.
From the gate to the baggage hold to the cockpit, a full court press to stay on time.
I thought I was going to miss my flight, but it's been smooth.
Both the FAA and the airlines predict heavy volume.
This is going to be the busiest Thanksgiving that we have on record.
31 million people flying by air, and while Atlanta is the busiest single airport, Reagan has the busiest single runway in the country. At towers nationwide, controller staffing is back to pre-shutdown levels, but most are still understaffed, as some facilities, including Newark, struggle with antiquated radars and radios that will take years to replace.
We've got a ground surface radar here that's got one operable channel on it right now.
Back in the concourse, it's a week after the government shutdown. Any residual impact?
None at all. We're actually back to a full schedule.
American Airlines says this week is their Super Bowl.
We anticipate November 30th being the most busy travel day
Sunday.
up until Monday the 1st.
As a very big Campbell family flies off for Thanksgiving. You're traveling with 7 kids. How's it been so far?
So far, so good, but ask me when we land.
Meanwhile, most Americans, 90% of us who are traveling, we're going by car. 73 million Americans. Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon and evening will be the heaviest travel times. And then, of course, returning on Sunday. And we're paying on average $3.06 a gallon for gas. That's almost precisely where it was a year ago. Tom?
Okay, Tom Costello for us. We're back in a moment with a new twist in the case known as the Sleder-man stabbing. One of the assailants escaping from a group home, now recaptured. The new details we've learned about who helped her get out. We're back now with a dramatic update in the Sleder-man stabbing case. The woman behind the infamous attack cutting off her ankle monitor and fleeing a group home this weekend. NBC's Emily Aketa explains how police tracked her down again and who they found her with.
This is where police officers found Morgan Geyser, ending their urgent search for the 23-year-old seen in handcuffs who nearly stabbed a classmate to death back in 2014, she said, to please the fictional online boogeyman Sleder-man. Over the weekend, authorities say Geyser cut off her monitoring bracelet and fled a group home.
It's extremely concerning that you would so blatantly violate a very, very simple condition, which is to stay in a placement and keep a bracelet on. Because immediately my thoughts went to the victim and keeping the community safe.
Geyser was found Sunday more than 150 miles south of Madison, Wisconsin, at a truck stop with 43-year-old Chad Mecca. According to a Posen police report, the pair, who met through church, was frustrated Mecca wasn't allowed to visit her at the group home, with Geyser telling investigators he sometimes would sneak in her window, opening up only after police say the friends repeatedly refused to provide their real names. Geyser said she didn't want to tell officers who she was because she had done something really bad.
She simply told the officer, here's my real name, you can Google me and you'll find out who I am.
In 2014, Geyser and another girl, both 12, lured their classmate Peyton Leitner to a Milwaukee park and attacked her.
And what part of her body did you stab her?
Everywhere. Geyser was sent to a mental hospital before a judge greenlighted her release to a group home earlier this year, something the Waukesha County District Attorney is now calling to be revoked.
Could she face new charges?
She could face a number of new charges because as far as the law is concerned, she escaped from prison.
All right, Emily Aketa joins us now. So, Emily, people are going to be wondering about that group home. It seemed like she seemed to have a lot of freedom there. Do we know what the goal ultimately was here? And could Geyser's friend, the one you mentioned there, the one from church, also face charges?
So we are learning through this police report that the pair said that they had traveled via bus from Wisconsin to Illinois, and they told investigators that they were considering potentially going on to Nashville, Tennessee as well. They said that they wanted to spend more time together, and they were unhappy with how she was being treated at the group home. Again, according to this police report, Mecca now faces criminal trespassing and obstructing identity charges and has since been released. But authorities both in Illinois and Wisconsin now communicating, trying to figure out a plan for how to get Geyser back to Wisconsin at this point.
Okay. Emily Aketa, good to see you. We thank you for that story. It's billed as a brand new smartphone, you may remember, made right here in the U.S. But months after the launch, not a single Trump mobile phone has been sent out. Our Brian Chung walks us through the updates he's gotten from the company. Plus, is taking a break from social media actually worth it? We'll dive into some new research on digital detoxes and how they could possibly be good for you. That's next. We're back now following up on an announcement we first brought you this summer. The Trump-branded smartphone, nowhere to be seen. You'll remember back in June, the president's two older sons announcing the T1 phone by Trump Mobile at an event in Trump Tower, promising the gold device with the flag on the back would be made in the USA for the low price of $499. In the months since, Trump Mobile has backed off that claim, the website now calling the phone an American Proud design. Among those who put down a $100 deposit to track the phone's development, our very own NBC's Brian Chung. So, Brian, the phone was supposed to launch in August. It's December. What update did you get?
Yeah, well, I mean, we put a $100 deposit down, the NBC News team, because we wanted to track the development of this phone. And, you know, you had September come by, October come by. Here we are in November, and there is still no phone. I've been checking in with their call center on a seemingly regular basis. And every time I've reached out and said, hey, where is this phone? They keep saying, well, it's going to come out at the end of this month. And then they keep punting and saying it's going to come out next month. And then I asked them, what is the reason for the delay? There were very little explanations for it. They were saying they need more time to develop it. And other times they also said even it was the government shutdown that was related to the delays for some reason. Either way, there is no evidence that this phone is anywhere close to coming. Again, we just see delay after delay. And by the way, we haven't seen anyone else receive their phones either. The call operator, as of last week, telling me that no one has received their phones yet.
Industry insiders you spoke to, as you reported out the story, were skeptical from the get-go, right?
Yeah, well, again, the made in the USA bit was the thing that really stuck with a lot of industry experts, because they're basically saying there is no infrastructure in the United States to make a phone entirely in the United States. Maybe you can have them assembled here, but the parts got to come from somewhere. So what does made in the USA even mean? But Tom, that could be a moot point, because the made in the USA language was scrubbed from the website. As you mentioned, now it just says American Proud design. Right. So there are some questions as to what this phone actually is. There's some speculation, Tom, that this is a refitted, what they call Wintech Revel 7. Based off of the specs that are listed online, it seems to match this Chinese-made phone. Again, it's called the Wintech Revel 7. But in the absence of having anything in my hand, it's hard to say what that phone looks like, or if it's actually going to be gold as advertised.
There is a Trump Mobile service, though, that's up and running, right?
Yeah, that was announced alongside that same announcement in June. This is a $47.45 a month plan, and owed to, obviously, the president's terms. But this is something as simple as a SIM card. So it does work, and it seems like, based off of reviews from people that have used it, that it does seem to actually offer the talk, text, and data. But interestingly, Tom, that program was also supposed to offer roadside assistance and telehealth. There's no real kind of evidence of that so far. Again, we're taking a look at it to see whether or not those promises were broken.
Yeah, the Trump phone isn't the only product there with Trump's name. Obviously, there's lots of products out there, but the newer ones, right, for sale right now, the Trump sneakers, right? You got Trump watches. You got the Trump trading cards, even the Trump guitar if you want to rock out. These are sold by other groups licensing the Trump name, right?
Yeah, and by the way, there is also the crypto. I think that's a big one, too. Right. But I think that when you talk about some of these products, a lot of these are taking the Trump name on license. What I do want to point out here is with Trump Mobile, as well as the T1 phone, the president is not directly involved with it. It does seem like the Trump organization, which announced Trump Mobile and the T1 phone, they're the ones that are kind of spearheading this. But again, the president did divest his holding of that, basically handed it over to his sons when he took the presidency for the second time.
Brian Chung, good work there. Stay on top of it. We appreciate it. Now to Top Stories Newsfeed. Portland Trailblazers coach Chauncey Billups pleading not to charges accusing him of making money off rigged poker games involving the mafia. The Basketball Hall of Famer released on a $5 million bond after appearing in court in Brooklyn. Billups is one of the biggest names charged in last month's sweeping federal crackdown of illegal gambling linked to pro sports. And a scary moment on a major highway in Ohio. You can see a dump truck, look at this, driving with its bed flipped up before slamming into a sign overhead, causing it to crash down on the road. A car swerving to get around the debris. Officials with the Ohio Department of Transportation say the incident shut down the highway for about 5 hours. And the Coast Guard rescuing a father and his 5-year-old son after their boat overturned in the night. Look how scary this is. It left them stranded in the water for nearly 2 hours. It happened earlier this month off the coast of Washington State. The crew found the pair after their family reported them missing. The father and son were treated by medics and survived. Okay, First Lady Melania Trump receiving this year's official White House Christmas tree. Here it comes. The nearly 20-foot white fur arriving by horse-drawn carriage today. It's being put up inside the Blue Room of the White House for the holiday season. The tree was grown and delivered by a farm in Michigan, which earned the honor after winning a national contest earlier this year. Okay, now to a new study out today on digital detoxes. Researchers published by the Journal of the American Medical Association finding that young adults who opted to take a 1-week break from social media reported significant mental health benefits. On average, symptoms of depression dropped by nearly 25%. Wow. Symptoms of anxiety were reduced by more than 16%. of insomnia went down by more than 14%. The study involved nearly 300 participants ages 18 to 24 who reduced their social media usage to half an hour per day. I want to bring in someone who is an expert on digital detoxes. Michael Jacobus, Executive Director for Reset Summer Camp, a digital detox for teens in California. So, Michael, I think people will see this study and see the benefits of getting off social media. Does this line up with what you see in your experience with the young people you work with? And how is this different from someone just taking a detox from the media in general?
Well, hi, Tom. Thanks for having me on. And yes, the study is completely accurate. We run a program that's actually a 4-week detox, and we see all of those outcomes during the first week.
But what's the difference? I mean, if somebody were to take, a digital detox from, say, Top Story or from watching TV in general, would it have the same effects? I mean, is social media worse for you than other forms of media?
Yeah, it is, and especially for younger people, because their whole lives are online. They don't communicate in full sentences. They don't make eye contact. Everything is emojis and abbreviations, and it's how they are wired to communicate these days. So taking that away from them versus just not letting them watch the news or something is significantly different.
Yeah, it's easier said than done, right? What tips do you have and what do you tell these teens on how to get sort of rid of your phone or at least take a break from it?
Well, in our program, like I said, we detox the kids for a 4-week program. And over the course of the first week, they're very frustrated. They have all of those symptoms, anxiety, depression, sleep deprivation, because they're used to staying up late and being on their devices. After about a week, they become basically reset, which is why we called it Reset Summer Camp, because they have reset to who they were before they got addicted to their device or their video game console or whatever it happens to be. They start building friendships with the other kids in the program. They start communicating with our therapists, and they actually kind of come out of this dark place that they're in, being glued to their devices all the time.
Is it the reading? Yeah, is it the reading? Is it sort of the emotional responses from reading comments? Is it just constantly being connected to your friends or seeing what other people are doing in their lives? Is there sort of one thing, or is it all of it?
Well, it's kind of all of it. Most of the boys who come to our program are gamers, and most of the girls who come to our program are social media, influencer wannabes. So the comments and the likes, that affects the girls, it seems like, more than the boys. But the boys have an aggressive nature for the gaming. And when I was a kid, there was something called game over. The game ended. And nowadays, games don't end. There is a bottomless pit to games. So you always have a new quest. You always have something new to buy. And you always have a friend to compete with. And it just creates this unending loop of anxiety.
It is a really good point, Michael, and I'm glad you came on here and shared those tips. We appreciate it. We thank you for joining Top Story tonight. Still ahead on Top Story, the push for peace in Ukraine. Our Richard Engel is on the ground in Geneva with the latest on those talks to end the war. How close are we to a deal? Plus, the terrifying incident in Thailand, a woman found alive after knocking on the inside, get this, of her coffin before she was set to be cremated. We'll explain what happened here next. We're back now monitoring the push for peace between Ukraine and Russia. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says a, quote, tremendous amount of progress was made in Switzerland this weekend, where the U.S. met with Ukraine to amend President Trump's 28-point proposal for peace. But will it be enough to get a deal done? NBC's Richard Engel joins us tonight from Geneva. Richard, walk us through the proposal that came out of the talks this weekend. What changed from the president's initial plan, which seemed very favorable to Russia?
So initially, this was a 28-point plan, and this was a plan that many Ukrainian officials, many European officials were outraged by when it was first leaked. People thought it was very close to what Vladimir Putin has been demanding for months now. Initially, Vladimir Putin wanted to take over all of Ukraine. When that proved difficult, he lessened his demands, and now he wants 4 provinces, all of them. He wants the Ukrainian military to be diminished in size. He wants promises that Ukraine can never join NATO. That was all in the initial 28-point plan. And Ukrainian officials wanted to talk about it. They wanted to meet face to face. And that's what these discussions here in Geneva, Switzerland were all about, with Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, also Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, senior officials from the Zelensky government were all here having marathon conversations, and they said they made progress to revise that proposal. And the Europeans also had a draft, another 28 plan that they put forward. And it seems that this new plan no longer has 28 points and is a combined version. It is a watered-down version of the initial proposal that is somewhat more in Ukraine's favor, enough that Zelensky will take it from here and he will address the outstanding issues, this new modified proposal, directly with President Trump, who will then discuss it with Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin has not commented on this updated version, which the White House, the specifics of this proposal, the White House is keeping very close to its chest.
All right, Richard Engel for us tonight from Geneva. Richard, we thank you for that. We're going to turn now to Top Stories Global Watch. We start with a wild story out of Thailand. A 65-year-old woman shocking the staff at a Buddhist temple when she started moving inside her coffin after being brought in to be cremated. Her brother apparently took her there a few days after she got sick and appeared to stop breathing. Officials say they were discussing a death certificate when they heard knocking from the coffin. Okay, an update now from former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. He told a judge he violated his house arrest over the weekend because he had hallucinations and a nervous breakdown caused by a change in his medication. He says it led him to tamper with his ankle monitor. Bolsonaro was then taken into custody for being considered a flight risk. He's sentenced to 27 years in prison for attempting a coup to stay in power in 2023. And just days after more than 300 students were kidnapped from a Catholic school in Nigeria, we're now told 50 of them have escaped. Officials say those children have been reunited with their parents. Gunmen abducted the students on Friday along with a dozen teachers. It's the latest in a series of attacks in Nigeria that have forced the government to close schools. Okay, in Israel, a disturbing new report of sexual abuse against former Israeli hostage Guy Gilboa Dalal, whose family I had the chance to speak to when he was released from Hamas captivity. His account is the second to come out in a matter of days, detailing sexual abuse at the hands of his captors in Gaza by Hamas terrorists. It comes as several Palestinians also allege sexual abuse in Israel prisons. NBC's Halal Gorani reports, and a warning: the details are disturbing.
Tonight, a second Israeli hostage has spoken out about the sexual abuse he says he suffered in Hamas detention. Guy Gilboa Dalal, who was released as part of the latest ceasefire deal last month, telling Israeli television that one of his captors kissed and touched him on 2 occasions, once while he was unclothed. I couldn't see him. My face was turned away and he was behind me. He rubbed his genitals against me. Last month, his father Ilhan and brother Gal told Tom that seeing Guy released was overwhelming.
It was the first time that I could actually hug my son after 2 years, 2 horrible years.
He looked at my mother and he told her, "I'm not the same son that you remember. I'm a different man now."
Days ago, another Israeli hostage, released in October, gave his own account of alleged abuse in detention. 21-year-old Ram Breslavsky saying in an interview that Palestinian Islamic Jihad captors stripped him naked and tied him up. Its goal was to crush my dignity, he told Israeli television. These 2 stories emerging against the backdrop of numerous allegations of rape and assault of Palestinian men and women in detention, documented by human rights groups. One in particular leaked video showing the alleged gang rape of a Palestinian prisoner by 5 Israeli soldiers at the Sededi Teiman facility in southern Israel in July 2024. A scandal erupted in Israel, not so much about the rape itself, but about the leak. The top military lawyer who admitted releasing the footage resigned, while the accused soldiers gave press conferences saying they were the ones victimized. And reports of widespread sexual assault in Israeli detention have been compiled by organizations like Israeli human rights group Beit Salam. In a 2024 report, it described the Israeli prison system as a network where abuse, including sexual assault and rape, have become, quote, systematic and institutionalized.
Hala Garani joins Top Story tonight from Tel Aviv. Hala, good to see you. These allegations are incredibly disturbing, and human rights groups say these kinds of abuses are often used as a weapon of war with little accountability.
Indeed, Tom. I've covered many wars over the last several decades, and unfortunately, sexual violence has nothing to do with sex. It is about wielding a weapon of war, about sexual humiliation and humiliation, full stop. And you find it really in every conflict zone. In the case of Palestinian detainees, human rights groups here in Israel say that it happens in a prison system where alleged perpetrators are seldom found accountable. So there is there a lack of transparency, according to them. Tom?
Okay, Hala Garani for us tonight. Hala, we thank you. Back here at home, we're going to be back in a moment with a scary scene in Atlanta. A driver having a heart attack while behind the wheel, crashing into a building. A doctor who happened to be right there in the parking lot, rushing in to save him. We'll talk to that hero. That's next. We're back now with an incredible moment out of Georgia, talking about being at the right place at the right time. Take a look at the surveillance video. It shows the moment a white SUV runs off the road in Atlanta, tearing through a parking lot and crashes into the side of a building. Moments later, you see a figure here in scrubs running in to help perform CPR and help save that driver's life. And that doctor, Kende Idowu, joins us now. Dr. Idowu, thank you so much for being on Top Story tonight. Take us back to that moment. I mean, I assume you hear this car crash into the building, or did you see it?
Actually, I was right behind the car before it lost control. We were both attempting to make a left turn, and the vehicle started veering into incoming traffic slowly. And it was at that moment that I started thinking something is wrong with the vehicle. So as soon as it got off the road, I also followed, maneuvering my way around traffic, got out of my car and got to the car. I saw the occupant in the car with his hand to his chest and sweating. I automatically assumed that he was having a medical event. Before I could get to his door, that's when the car picked up speed and ran into the building, and I followed chasing after the car.
I mean, you know, people can ask, how did you prepare? How do you train for this? But I got to think this is just sort of on a gut level, just instinct kicked in, right?
Right. Yeah. Classically, it's one of the things that we do tell people. If you're having pain in your chest and you're sweating, we automatically think that this is a cardiac event going on. And at the time when I got to the vehicle after it had collided with the wall, he was no longer conscious. So at that moment, I knew that time was of the essence. As a physician who's taking care of patients who have come to the hospital after something like this happening, after having an out-of-hospital cardiac event, I know that I've seen what life could look like after. So it was important that we got him out of the vehicle and started CPR as soon as possible.
I mean, this man probably had just seconds to live, and you got there in the right time, right? This really was right place, right time, that a doctor like you was just behind him.
Some people have actually described it as more of a God instance for all the factors to occur. Not just me being there, for the staff that came out to help me get him out, for the police officers, the first responders who arrived, they had a defibrillator. So even having that was really very helpful for us, as we were actually able to use it based on the rhythm that he was in. And for EMS to arrive, for traffic to be going in the right direction, for him to get to the nearest hospital, was all kind of things working out in his favor. And we could only but think God was probably in control here.
Doctor, do you know how he's doing tonight?
I do know that he's doing well. I believe he is probably out of the hospital already. I'm waiting to make more contact with the family and maybe meet up in the very near future.
What do you want to tell him?
That his story inspires me, and I hope his story inspires other people with how God can move in different ways, in ways that we can't predict or get credit for. Just because I look back and think that I was supposed to make 2 left turns, but because I didn't, my GPS forced me to make a U-turn, and that's what led me to be at the right place at the right time. And all I can think of that was not planned. And for his type of outcome, where we know that prognosis could be bad, like that has to be ordained by God. So
Doctor, what an incredible story, and you're right, it's wild how things work out that way. Dr. Kende Idowu, we thank you so much for joining Top Story and sharing that story.
Thank you for having me.
And we thank you for watching the show tonight. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way. We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.